I'll never forget that day. Never. The air smelled of cheap floor cleaner and reheated deli chicken. The fluorescent lights buzzing like angry bees above my head, and then her voice cut through it all like glass scraping against metal. Hey. You. Yes. You. Don't just stand there being lazy. At first, I didn't even realize she was talking to me. How could I? I didn't even work there. I froze with a box of cereal still in my hand. Heart thudding against my chest. Lazy. Me. I looked around, expecting maybe she was yelling at an employee behind me. But nope. Her finger, sharp and trembling with rage, was pointed directly at me. My mouth went dry, and for a split second, I thought it had to be a joke. Prank. Something caught on camera for a TikTok maybe. But then her face twisted into the scowl. Veins pushing against her temple, and I knew. Oh God. I knew. This woman was deadly serious. Are you deaf or just stupid? She snapped, stomping toward me, her sandals slapping against the floor. The sound echoed like someone snapping rubber bands in an empty hallway. I've been waiting for someone to help me with this heavy dog food bag, and you're just standing there. What are you even paid for? Paid. My voice cracked when I tried to answer. Ma'am, I don't work here. And just like that, the room shifted. I swear, it was like the entire store held its breath. The cartwheels squeaked to a stop somewhere near the bread aisle. A kid gasped behind his mother's leg, and the buzz of the fluorescent lights suddenly felt deafening. Her eyes narrowed, and she let out this mocking laugh. Loud and sharp. Oh, don't give me that excuse. She sneered. You're in a plain t-shirt, sneakers, stocking shelves, pretending you're a customer. Don't you dare lie to me. Stocking shelves. I blinked, realizing I had just put a cereal box back after changing my mind, and she thought that meant I was an employee. My pulse was pounding, hot blood rushing to my ears. I tried to step back, but she lunged closer, shoving the cart between us like a weapon. The front wheel squealed as it hit my shin. I sucked in a sharp breath. Lady, I told you, I don't work here. Please back up. But oh no, she wasn't backing up. She leaned forward, her perfume, too sweet, too thick, like wilted roses soaked in alcohol, burning my nose. Lazy, entitled brat. She hissed. No wonder this whole generation's falling apart. My chest tightened, and I felt heat rising under my skin. I wanted to shout back, to push her cart away, but my body locked up. Then she did something I never imagined in a million years. She slapped me. The crack echoed like a gunshot. My head snapped to the side, cheek stinging, eyes watering. Gasps erupted around us. Somewhere, a phone camera clicked on. I could hear someone whisper, "Oh my God." Everything inside me trembled. Shock, rage, humiliation all tangled into one. But before I could react, she doubled down. That'll teach you to ignore customers. She barked. Get me that bag of food right now, or I'll call your manager and get you fired. I was shaking. My fists clenched so tight my nails bit into my palms. Fired. From a job I didn't even have. It would have been absurd if it wasn't so terrifying. My throat tightened as I tried to steady my voice. I told you, I don't work here. Her face flushed red, lips curling into a sneer. Liar. She spat, so loud people down the aisle turned to stare. This is why everything's broken. Because of people like you. Lazy. Useless. Wasting space. And then, twist of fate. The real employee showed up. A young guy in an actual uniform, name tag shining, pushing a dolly stacked with boxes. He looked confused, blinking at us. Ma'am, can I help you with something? The air shifted again. People started murmuring, a ripple of realization spreading through the crowd. Karen's eyes darted between me and him, and for a split second, panic flashed across her face. But she covered it up with more venom. Finally, she shrieked, grabbing his arm. Your coworker here has been refusing to help me. Standing around. Mouthing off. Even trying to hit me. What? The word burst out of me before I could stop it. My voice cracked with disbelief. My cheek still burned. My body buzzing from the slap. I wanted to scream the truth. To rip through her lies. But I could feel the weight of her accusation crushing down. People were staring. Whispering. Some nodding in sympathy with her. What if they believed her? The employee frowned. His eyes flicking between us. He doesn't work here. I've never seen him before. The silence after that. It was like a thunderclap had rolled through the store. Karen's face froze. Her jaw hanging open. She looked like someone had yanked the rug out from under her. Then she snapped back with this ugly laugh. Of course you'd cover for him. Protect your lazy friend. She barked. But the cracks in her act were showing now. People weren't nodding anymore. They were glaring. Phones were up. One woman hissed. You slapped him. I got it on video. Karen's eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw fear flicker there. She stammered. And no, he came at me first. I was just defending myself. Ma'am. The employee cut in. Voice firm. I'm gonna have to ask you to calm down or leave the store. But Karen wasn't done. Oh no. She spun toward the crowd. Her voice rising into the screech that made my skin crawl. You're all sheep. You don't know what really happened. He's lazy. He's dangerous. He should be banned. Banned. Dangerous. My body trembled. But this time it wasn't fear. It was something else. A fire lit inside me. Slow but fierce. I straightened, locking eyes with her, and for the first time, I spoke without my voice breaking. Funny thing about lies. I said. My voice low. Steady. They don't hold up when the truth is staring everyone in the face. And then, oh God, I'll never forget it. The manager walked in. Not just any manager. The kind who looked like he'd been through years of customer wars. Stern eyes. Arms crossed. Voice calm but razor sharp. He listened for 30 seconds. Maybe less. Before turning to Karen. Ma'am. We have multiple witnesses. We have video cameras. And you assaulted a customer. Her face drained of color. That's not true. He was. But the words tangled. Tripped over themselves. She sputtered. Reaching for excuses. But the crowd wasn't buying it anymore. Phones were recording. People whispering. She's done for. And then, sirens. I swear. Hearing that faint wail in the distance felt like the universe itself was taking a deep breath. Ready to drop the hammer. Someone had called the cops. Her eyes darted wildly. Hands shaking. She tried to grab her cart. But the manager stepped between her and the exit. You're not going anywhere until the police arrive. I almost felt sorry for her then. Almost. Because the fear in her eyes was real. Raw. Tearing her mask to shreds. But then I remembered the sting on my cheek. The humiliation. The names she spat at me. The way she tried to turn everyone against me. And that pity. Gone. When the cops arrived. The crowd parted like water. Karen tried one last desperate scream. Insisting she was the victim. But the officer's voice cut through her wails. Ma'am. You're under arrest for assault. The click of handcuffs echoed louder than the fluorescent buzz above us. People clapped. Actually clapped. And me. I stood there. Chest rising and falling. Heart pounding. But this time with relief. The bitter twist. A week later, I found out she tried to sue the store. Claiming emotional distress. But the videos. Those glorious videos. Had gone viral. Her face. Her slap. Her meltdown. It was everywhere. And instead of a payout, she lost her job. Got banned from half the stores in town and became a living cautionary tale. Sometimes I think back to that moment. That sting on my cheek and I wonder, What if no one had filmed it? What if people had believed her lies? The thought chills me, but it also reminds me, the truth has a way of clawing itself to the surface, no matter how loud the lies scream. And Karen, well, she learned the hard way that screaming lazy at the wrong stranger can come back like a boomerang, sharp and merciless. So, if you're still here with me, thank you for listening to this wild ride, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more unbelievable stories like this one. Karen hacked the school bus GPS. She rerouted every stop through her street so her precious Devon didn't have to walk a single block. Kids were late, parents were panicking, and she actually bragged about it like she'd solved world hunger. I didn't believe it at first. I mean, who the hell does that? Hijacking the routes of a public school transport system because your precious boy can't walk 3 houses down? But oh no, Karen wasn't just your run-of-the-mill HOA queen. She fancied herself a tech-savvy suburban genius with a crusade against unfair bus zoning. I found out the hard way when my son, Luca, came home 40 minutes late one Monday, his face beet red from the heat, lips chapped, eyes wide. "Mom, the bus got stuck on Maple again. That same dead end. Some kid threw up," he said, pulling off his sweat-drenched backpack. "Driver said the GPS told her to go that way." I blinked. "What? But Maple's not even on the route." "Not anymore," he mumbled, heading straight to the fridge. I started asking around. And wouldn't you know it? Half the parents on the west side had the same story, buses looping needlessly, backtracking, arriving at stops they hadn't serviced in years. Some poor third grader even missed his dentist appointment. You think it's nothing, but this was chaos with wheels. Then came the kicker: Karen's proud post on the HOA Facebook group. It had that usual smug tone. "Glad to see the school district finally recognized the inefficiency in the old routing system. Kids in our cul-de-sac deserve equal access too." Guess someone finally listened, winking face. Oh my God. My hands were shaking. I couldn't just scroll past that. So I commented, calm at first, measured. "Karen, did you report this to the school board or?" She replied instantly, "No need when you know people who understand infrastructure. Let's just say it helps having a coding background. Not everyone gets it." Relieved face. I actually gasped. She admitted I'd a public post. And it got worse. Some of her cronies clapped back, praising her initiative, calling her a hero mom. Someone even said, "The school should be thanking her." Oh no, no way, not on my watch. You see, they didn't know who they were messing with. My brother, Sean, wasn't just retired military. He was part of the Joint Transit Operations Command back in the day, one of those quiet geniuses who wrote the protocols for secure transportation logistics. Buses, trains, evacuation routes, you name it. If it moved, he made sure it got there safely. I called him that night. He didn't say much, just a long sigh when I read her post. Then, the magic words, "I'll be there in the morning." By 9 a.m., Sean was in our kitchen with a laptop, sipping bitter black coffee and staring at lines of code like he was reading ancient Greek. "You weren't exaggerating," he muttered, scrolling through an archived GPS packet. "What do you see?" I asked, heart pounding. She used a basic spoofing script. It's amateur stuff, but enough to confuse the system into rerouting the buses temporarily. Only works if someone's got remote access and an admin password. My jaw dropped. She couldn't possibly have. He turned the laptop to show me. She logged in through an outdated maintenance credential, probably scraped from a PDA newsletter or guessed a default. School district systems are old, unsecured. I suddenly felt sick. "So this is criminal, right?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, unauthorized access. Tampering with a public transport system. This isn't a slap-on-the-wrist situation." And just like that, the plan was on. We didn't want to go nuclear yet. Sean reached out to a former colleague, now a transportation compliance officer, and asked him to quietly monitor the system for new breaches. Within 2 days, Karen tried logging in again. Sean caught the IP address and triangulated it right to her home Wi-Fi. We had digital proof. Time to serve it cold. The school board called an emergency meeting. Parents were packed shoulder to shoulder in the auditorium. fanning themselves with old newsletters. Emotions were high. Everyone wanted answers. Why were their kids being driven in circles for 2 weeks? Karen was there, of course, in the front row with her trademark smirk and 3-inch binder of receipts she liked to wave around. Then came the moment of truth. Sean stepped up to the mic. No fanfare, just a calm, steady voice and a slideshow with server logs, timestamps, and route simulations. The room went silent. By the time the third slide hit, a gasp rippled through the crowd. A few parents turned to glare at Karen. She shifted in her seat, face pale but still holding that fake confidence. Then Sean dropped the hammer. This access came from a residential IP address registered to 714 Lilac Drive. That corresponds to, he didn't even finish the sentence. Karen stood up. "Excuse me. I demand to speak. This is slander. I was trying to help. The system's broken. And you just what?" I cut in, standing too. "Stole credentials? Endangered kids? You're not a hero. You're reckless." Gasps. Whispers. Phones started recording. She tried to pivot, of course. Claimed she was testing improvements. Said it was all voluntary labor, and the district should thank her for exposing vulnerabilities. But the board didn't buy it. They called for a temporary suspension of her HOA presidency pending legal review. And then came the twist no one expected. The district's IT contractor, an older guy in thick glasses and a rumpled shirt, leaned into the mic and added, "Actually, this isn't Karen's first attempt. We noticed anomalies going back 3 months. She's been quietly messing with backup systems and traffic signal priority software too." The crowd erupted. You could feel the shift in the air. This wasn't some mischievous mom anymore, this was a saboteur. Karen's face? Oh, she wasn't smirking now. She was sweating bullets, clutching her binder like it could shield her from the wrath in that room. And then, the ultimate twist, Sean stepped aside and let the school's legal advisor take the floor. They announced a full audit and criminal investigation had been opened. I couldn't help ITI exhaled, slow and loud. It was done. The queen bee of the cul-de-sac had finally stung herself. But the sting hadn't even really begun. Karen tried to speak again, but the murmurs had turned to pointed words: selfish, dangerous, criminal. No one was clapping for her now. No one was buying the "I did it for the children" act she had rehearsed so smugly. And when 2 uniformed district officers approached the front row to escort her out for a private statement, her knees almost buckled. She didn't even argue. She just wilted. Binder still clutched to her chest like a lifeline she knew was useless. A week later, the news broke publicly. The school district filed an official lawsuit against Karen for digital tampering, negligence, and unauthorized access to government systems. The Parents' Council added a civil case of their own, demanding compensation for trauma and missed work hours due to the delays she caused. It wasn't just community backlash. Anna Maria, it was legal fire raining down on her porch. And the HOA, they dropped her like a sack of rotting potatoes. Voted her out, scrubbed her name off the newsletter, and filed a restraining order from accessing shared board systems. Devin? Poor kid ended up walking 3 blocks to school like every other normal child under watchful eyes that now pitted him instead of envying his mother's power. As foreseen, got a quiet letter of thanks from the Department of Education's Transportation Division. They even offered him a consulting gig to fix their outdated GPS protections. Me? I sat back with a hot coffee on my porch and watched the moving truck arrive at 714 Lilac Drive 3 months later. Karen was gone. No farewell party. No banners. Funny how karma has her own GPS. And it always reroutes straight to justice. If you love stories where karma hits like a lawsuit with teeth, subscribe to my channel and buckle up for the next wild ride. I'll never forget the day she marched up my driveway like she owned the place. Her heels clicked against the concrete, sharp and loud, echoing like gunshots in the quiet suburban air. "You need to open this garage right now," Karen barked, jabbing her finger toward my steel gray garage door. My heart thudded. Was this woman insane? Who the hell demands access to someone else's garage? I stood there, sweaty from just finishing a tune-up on my Ducati, wiping grease off my palms. Excuse me, I asked, half laughing, half bewildered. Did I hear that right? You're demanding access to my garage. Yes, she snapped, her voice high-pitched enough to make a passing dog bark. As the Homeowners Association vice president, I have the authority. There could be violations in there. Storage hazards. Pest problems. We can't have that affecting property values. I sighed so hard it felt like my chest deflated. This woman again. Karen. The self-appointed queen of our cul-de-sac. She lived 3 doors down, and ever since she got that stupid Homeowners Association badge, she strutted like a sheriff in a spaghetti western. You realize, I said slowly, that you have zero legal right to demand entry into a homeowner's private garage. Right? Zero.
Nada.
Her lips curled into a smug grin. People who hide things usually have something to hide. The irony. Now, here's the twist. My garage wasn't just a garage. Behind that door sat my passion project. My sanctuary. My heart. A private collection of cars that could make any gearhead weak in the knees. A cherry red Ferrari 488. A midnight black McLaren 720S. And the crown jewel. A cobalt blue Bugatti Chiron that practically purred even when it was off. No one in the neighborhood knew. Except my family. I liked it that way. Discretion. Peace. No gawkers.
No envy.
Just me. My machines and the open road when I needed it. And now, this nosy Homeowners Association tyrant was practically foaming at the mouth. Demanding to snoop. I leaned back against the wall, crossing my arms. Karen, you step 1 foot past this driveway and you're trespassing. Homeowners Association or not. Do you really want to play that game? Her eyes narrowed and her voice dripped with venom. Don't test me. I can call the police. A laugh burst out of me before I could stop it. Oh, please do. I'd love to watch you explain to officers why you're harassing a homeowner over his garage. She huffed, spun on her heel and stormed off, heels clicking like a ticking time bomb. I thought that was the end of it. God, I was wrong. 2 days later, I came home to flashing lights outside my house. My stomach sank. Police cruisers parked at the curb. Karen standing smugly beside them, arms folded, like she'd just caught Pablo Escobar. Sir, one of the officers called out as I pulled up. We received a complaint from the Homeowners Association about potential code violations in your garage. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Are you kidding me? This again. Karen smirked, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Open it up. Show them what's inside. The officers were polite, but even they looked tired of her nonsense. Sir, you're not legally required to let us in without a warrant. One said gently, but it might save everyone some time. I exhaled slowly. My options flashed before me. Slam the door in her face. Fight it out. Or let the cards fall where they may. Finally, I shrugged. You want to see what's in there so badly. Karen. Fine. Don't say I didn't warn you. The garage door rumbled as I hit the opener. The heavy steel lifted. Sunlight streaming in like a spotlight on a stage. And there they were, gleaming chrome. Polished curves. Engines worth more than her entire house. The Ferrari caught the light first, his body practically glowing. The McLaren stood sleek and predatory beside it. And then, the Bugatti, the monster, stood at the center, its cobalt paint shimmering like liquid sapphire. Karen's jaw dropped. What the, are those even legal? She stammered, voice cracking. Couldn't help but chuckle. Last I checked. Yes. Perfectly street legal. Registered. Insured. Want to see the paperwork? Her face turned beet red. Then white. This isn't fair. This flaunts the HOA's guidelines about. She tripped over her own words. Like a car stalling out on the highway. The officers exchanged a look. One cleared his throat.
Mom.
Having nice vehicles isn't a crime. But making false police reports is.
Boom.
Like a mic drop in surround sound. Karen sputtered, waving her hands wildly. But he's lowering property values with this. This success. It's disruptive. It attracts crime. The officer raised an eyebrow.
Mom.
I'd argue calling cops on baseless accusations is more disruptive than a homeowner parking his cars in his own garage. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Karen's panic was visible. Beads of sweat trickling down her forehead. Her voice rising in a pitchy screech. You don't understand. We can't have people like him here. It's unsafe. Unfair. Unsafe. I asked. Incredulous. Because I worked my ass off. Built a company and bought some cars I love. That makes me unsafe. Her mask slipped. Just for a second, and what I saw underneath was pure envy. Raw. Bitter envy. The cops weren't buying it. One officer pulled out a notepad.
Mom.
We're issuing you a citation for misuse of police resources. You can take it up in court if you disagree. Her mouth fell open like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. A citation. Me. But I'm the homeowners association. And the officer said flatly, the law doesn't care about homeowners association titles. I swear I could hear the neighbors snickering from behind curtains. Doors cracked open. Faces peeking out. Karen, the mighty enforcer, humiliated in broad daylight. I leaned against my Bugatti, arms crossed, trying not to smirk too hard. Told you, Karen, you really didn't want to play this game. She spun, sputtering curses under her breath, and stormed off like a villain who just realized the hero was 10 steps ahead. But here's the kicker. A week later, I got a letter from the Homeowners Association, signed by Karen herself, demanding that I disclose all income sources related to the ownership of exotic vehicles, because, get this, she suspected illicit activity. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. Was she serious? She was doubling down. That's when I made a call. See, my cousin happens to be a lawyer who eats Homeowners Association nonsense for breakfast. We drafted a response so sharp it could cut steel, a cease and desist, citing harassment, defamation, and misuse of Homeowners Association authority. The board, fed up with her antics, voted her out 2 weeks later. Just like that, her crown crumbled. And me, I still polish my cars every Sunday. Garage door wide open now. Neighbors stop by to admire, take pictures, even bring their kids to sit in the Ferrari. Community vibe. Never better. Karen. She keeps her curtains shut tight these days, probably seething in silence. Sometimes, late at night, I catch myself chuckling. All that noise, all that drama, all that fury, just to end up cited by the police and dethroned by her own board. Poetic, isn't it? Because here's the truth. Greed and envy always crash harder than any car on the road. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have slammed the door on her? Or rolled it up and let her choke on her own envy? Thanks for reading, and if you enjoyed this wild ride of Homeowners Association drama, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Because next time, the lawsuit might just flip the whole story upside down. You ever had that moment where you think, this can't actually be happening? Well, buckle up. 3 days ago, the Karen sisters, those infamous HOA tyrants everyone in the neighborhood whispered about, decided to pull the ultimate power move. Literally, they cut the power to my medical garage. Can you imagine? A garage filled with life-saving equipment, running off electricity 24/7, and suddenly, everything goes dark. And no, they didn't know I'm the chief of emergency operations for the county. Funny how karma has its way. Huh? Let me catch my breath for a second because this whole mess still has me shaking. Why would anyone be so cruel? So cold? So recklessly self-righteous? It's like they wanted to see what chaos looked like firsthand. And boy, did they get more than they bargained for. It all started on a bright Monday morning. The kind of morning where the sun feels sharp but warm, birds chirping a bit too cheerfully, and the faint hum of the neighborhood waking up. I was down in my garage, surrounded by humming machines, oxygen concentrators, ventilators, emergency battery backups, every piece of equipment crucial to patients relying on me. I'm not just any garage tinkerer. This is a mini medical hub I've built over the years, helping folks who can't always get quick hospital access. But today, all of it went dead. A sudden thump-thump in my chest as the lights flickered once, twice, and then just gave out. No, I muttered, scrambling for my phone, but the whole block was dark. The power was completely out, and not a single device in my garage was humming anymore. I dashed outside to check the meter. That's when I saw it bright orange tape wrapped around the main power line with a big red sticker. Power disabled, HOA order. What? Who would do this? My blood boiled as I looked up the street. There they were, the infamous Karen sisters, Judy and Linda, standing on their porch, arms crossed, faces set like stone. They were the kind of people who thought rules were weapons, and kindness was a weakness. I wanted to yell, "Are you serious? Do you even know what you're messing with?" But I bit back. I needed facts, not rage. Turns out, the sisters had filed a formal complaint weeks ago, claiming my garage was a hazard, unauthorized commercial operation, and threatening neighborhood aesthetics. Typical Karen nonsense, but this time, they'd taken it way too far, cutting the power without any notice or warning. I still remember the cold, mechanical click of the breaker when the power went off, like the sound of a guillotine falling on months of hard work and, frankly, people's lives. And here's the twist. What they didn't, as I stared back at them, the irony hit me like a punch. I mean, how's that for karma? These Karens thought they were crushing me, but they just lit a fire I wasn't about to let die. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of the tape with the sticker, then headed straight to the county office. No way was I letting some HOA tyrants sabotage life-saving work. The office was buzzing when I walked in, and I almost laughed at the timing. The moment I laid the photo down on the desk, everyone's heads snapped up. "What in the world?" a clerk gasped. "Who would do this?" I gave them the lowdown, the Karens, the complaint, the power cut. By the end of it, the county attorney was on the phone drafting emergency injunctions to restore power immediately. But wait, there's more. The sisters didn't just stop there. Later that afternoon, I got a call from my neighbor, Jenna, frantic and almost in tears. She said the Karens had started knocking on doors, warning everyone about dangerous activities in my garage and threatening to call the police if anyone supported me. Are you kidding me? I could hear the faint sound of her kids crying in the background. What kind of monster weaponizes neighbors against a guy who's literally saving lives? I sighed heavily. This wasn't just about power anymore. It was about control, about fear, about the way Karen types manipulate social pressure like some twisted chess game. And you better believe I was ready to play. That night, as I sat in my dark house with only the faint glow of my phone, I started piecing together the bigger picture. The sisters had been pushing this agenda for months, sneaking complaints and setting traps. They hated that my garage wasn't just a personal workshop but a beacon for the community, a place where folks could come when hospitals were full or ambulance response times were slow. Imagine the audacity. How dare they try to erase a lifeline just because it doesn't fit their picture of suburban perfection? It's like they wanted people to suffer because it made their precious neighborhood cleaner. I shook my head in disbelief. And here's the kicker: the very next morning, just as I was prepping to fight back officially, the Karens were dealt their own surprise blow. The county's emergency power inspector arrived, yours truly, to conduct a thorough review. When I showed up at their front door, clipboard in hand, the look on their faces was priceless. The same faces that had cut my power looked like they'd swallowed a lemon whole. I calmly explained that not only was my garage operating completely within legal bounds, but it was also registered as an emergency response unit. The irony? I'm literally in charge of coordinating emergency power protocols across the county. So, when they cut my power, they also broke county emergency codes. Oops. Linda tried to argue. We didn't know all that. We just want what's best for our community. Oh, come on. The best for the community, that's just their sanitized fantasy, excluding anyone or anything that doesn't fit their narrow definition. Judy's mouth tightened. You could hear the tension crackle in the air like static electricity. The county inspector handed them a formal violation notice for unauthorized interference with emergency infrastructure. Suddenly, it wasn't me being the problem, Anna Marie, it was them. Karma? You bet. But the story gets better. That afternoon, a neighbor called me in a panic. Her elderly father's oxygen machine had stopped working because of the blackout. Can you feel my heart stop? It was moments like these that made the sister's cruelty painfully real. I rushed to her house with my emergency generator and battery backups. The relief on that woman's face was something I'll never forget. Later that evening, I saw the Karens outside their house, arguing loudly with each other. Their perfect little act had shattered. Rumors spread fast. People were rallying behind me, and the HOA board was suddenly getting calls from the county about fines, violations, and lawsuits. The Karen sisters had backed themselves into a corner. But here's the final twist. About 2 days later, the HOA's power supplier notified them that they'd be facing hefty fines for tampering with the power grid, plus a full investigation into the unauthorized outage. The sisters' little vendetta was now a full-blown legal nightmare. They were scrambling to patch things up, but the damage was done. The neighborhood knew exactly what kind of people they were dealing with. And me? I got a standing ovation at the next county emergency meeting, with officials praising my quick response and dedication. The garage, fully powered back up, running smoother than ever, and now with extra security measures to prevent any future sabotage. Take that, Karens. But the Karens weren't finished yet. Oh no, they doubled down. When the fines and violations started rolling in, Judy and Linda launched a lawsuit against me. Can you believe that? A lawsuit claiming I was disturbing the peace and operating an illegal business, as if running a medical emergency hub to help neighbors was some criminal enterprise. Really? This just shows how far people will sink when blinded by spite. The community, however, saw right through their charade. More neighbors came forward, telling stories of how my garage had saved their lives, or those of their loved ones during power outages and medical emergencies. People started showing up at HOA meetings, demanding accountability and transparency. The Karens found themselves isolated, their once iron grip loosening with every testimony and every angry glance. The lawsuit dragged on, but with each hearing, the Karens' arguments grew weaker. Evidence piled up. Permits, emergency operation certifications, countless grateful neighbors, and even recordings of the sisters admitting their vendetta against me simply because I ruined the neighborhood's image. The judge wasn't buying it. Then, a beautiful moment of poetic justice during one of the court sessions. A sudden power outage hit the courthouse. Guess who stepped up? Me. Using my portable medical equipment and emergency power setup, I helped keep the building's critical systems running until backup power kicked in. That moment, it was electric literally and figuratively. The courtroom went silent, all eyes on me, the villain turned savior. By the time the verdict came down, the judge ruled decisively in my favor. The Karens were ordered to pay damages for unlawful power interference and defamation. Their lawsuit was dismissed and labeled a malicious attempt to harass. I could almost hear the collective gasp from the Karens when the judge's words hit the room. Their reign of terror was officially over. But more than that, it was a lesson to everyone who thinks they can bully their way through life at others' expense. Power isn't just about electricity, it's about the strength to do what's right, even when you're up against the loudest, most stubborn opponents. And I wasn't about to let a couple of Karens dim the light of a whole community. Looking back, I still get a little chill remembering the sound of silence when the power died in my garage. But now, that silence has been replaced by the hum of machines, the grateful chatter of neighbors, and the knowledge that justice, though slow, does come. So if you ever find yourself facing a Karen or any bully who thinks they can mess with your life, remember this story. Stand your ground. Fight smart. And maybe, just maybe, karma's got your back too. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. If you want to hear more stories about standing up to injustice, power struggles, and unexpected victories, hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Because trust me, this lawsuit saga was only the beginning.